This video is about my first multi-day motorcycle trip of 2025. In mid-June, I left Edmonton for some early season riding in beautiful British Columbia. It was a good trip, but things didn't go as planned.
The weather forecasts for the day ahead looked great. Another day of full sun and hot temperatures lay ahead, and I decided it was the perfect time to make an Okanagan run with a ride along Route 3 to Osoyoos and back. The ride from Christina Lake to Osoyoos is 144 kilometers of curvy, mostly two-lane road. It can be quite busy in summer, with RVs moving back and forth between the many campgrounds and resorts along the route, so traffic can be frustrating. That day, though, it was early enough in the season that traffic wasn't much of a challenge. With lots of elevation changes, interesting little towns, valleys and farmland, and the arid climate, that ride was a lot of fun. I spent most of the morning relaxing at the campground, and I hit the road around 11:30. At the 70-kilometer mark, I turned on the camera at the Tunnel of Flags outside Greenwood, BC. Long ago, somebody painted dozens of flags all over this railway relic, but the paint has faded, and it's proven irresistible to graffiti artists and vandals, so the flags are hard to see now. Greenwood boomed in the late 1800s around a local copper mine that became productive. The boom lasted a few years, but then a drop in demand for copper caused the region to fall into a steady decline, and the smelter and other key industries closed. In 2021, the census showed only 702 people still live in Greenwood, but honestly, the way the town is preserved and the way it's spread out along the valley, it looks like it should be more people than that. Greenwood is pretty photogenic, and the historic themed saloons and a scattering of restaurants are popular gathering places. This area gets a lot of tourism business, particularly in summer, that helps support the local population. After Greenwood, I didn't film anything more until the turnaround point outside Osoyoos an hour or so later. Here are a couple of internet photos of Osoyoos. The impressive climb out when traveling east from Osoyoos is an experience all its own. You climb 802 meters of elevation in the first 16 kilometers, and you do it at highway speed. Osoyoos is at the southernmost point of the famous Okanagan Valley and only 3.5 clicks from the U.S. border. Known for its mild winters and hot summers, it's prime fruit-growing country, and in recent years, dangerous wildfires have unfortunately become more common in the region. On the return leg of my ride, I'd leave the orchards behind and climb to and through the tree line in just the next few kilometers. It was early in the season, so there wasn't much fresh produce at the farm stands, and no reason to stop. My last ride up this hill was in 2023 on my poor old KLR 650. That day was hot like this one. The bike was fully loaded, and it had reached the peak of its oil burning. I babied the bike as much as I could up the hill, but there's always traffic around you on this highway, and they don't always appreciate slow drivers. We did get up and over the hill in the end, but I was happy not to have to repeat that performance ever again on that bike. Reaching the tree line meant more chances for a shady spot to stop for a break, but it didn't seem to have any effect on temperatures, and the air remained hot and dry. When the switchbacks and climbing were all done, I pulled over for a stretch, and I put the camera away. The battery in the GoPro was pretty much done by then, and I didn't film anything more for the rest of the ride. I continued on to Christina Lake at a brisk pace and arrived at about 5:30 in the evening. It was beautiful, sunny, and warm. My original plan had been to continue westward the next morning and to spend the next week traveling to and around coastal BC. But over the past couple of days, the weather forecast for the whole of BC to the west, and particularly the coastal regions, had been steadily falling apart. The outlook for the next week had become really unpleasant, with heavy rain, atmospheric rivers, and dramatically lower temperatures expected for the next 5 to 10 days. Riding and camping in weather like that just isn't any fun, and I was here to have fun, so I knew I had to change my plans. The weather at home was also cold, and most of Alberta was going to be socked in with rain for a few days yet, so I had to figure out a route to get back home that would hopefully be interesting and fun while avoiding the worst of the weather. I was only partly successful. I don't normally make camping reservations at all, but for this trip I'd changed that up. Weeks ago I'd made several days camping reservations at 3 different campgrounds for the days ahead that now needed to be canceled, and I need to make new reservations somewhere else for at least the coming weekend. This turned into a real hassle over the next few days, as the rapidly evolving weather forced me to change my plans again and again. There were cancellation fees, partial refunds, new reservation fees, and change fees, and I even ended up paying for at least one campsite I never stayed in. It all became expensive and very frustrating. This was my last day at Christina Lake, and I spent the rest of it making new plans and reservations for the weekend ahead. My best option would be to simply backtrack on Route 3 to Alberta, spending a couple of days covering all the same territory again, but I hate doing that. I decided instead to head northeast to the Kootenays, which I love. The forecast there looked bearable, at least for the next 3 days. I rode 343 clicks that day, and the trip total was now 1,611 kilometers.